I returned to this project to continue with another phase and some things that had occurred to me. For one thing, that beam projecting down into that room is I think it's kind of a problem. And if a person was willing, they could, and I wanted to cover this because I didn't really cover it the first time around. If we only use two beams, they're 22 inch, two 22 inches, and if a person was inclined, they'll come in here, this is the room here, and this was that big projecting beam. But if a person was inclined, they could install that and create this flush condition through here. It would require taking this baseboard off in both of those rooms upstairs. There's probably going to be drywall damage somehow. So at least those walls of those two rooms would need painted. But it would give you this flush condition down here. At least this beam is centered in the room at 9.8 and 9.8. But once that beam is gone, then we can make this addition part, and that 9.8 called out that 10.2. We can make that addition part anything, because this whole room, it's got to be close to 20 feet. And we can now, without the beam, if we were willing to do that, which I'm not sure it's any more arduous than putting in that steel or the other ones, the wood that we had shown before. But in any event, once that's gone, then it doesn't matter how much we pull out, and so I've reverted to where I just pull out 8 feet here, and I let that accrue to the width of this porch, as I recall. Right, I left this wall where it was, pulled that wall back, and added 2 feet to the depth of this porch without adding this. This makes this room a more reasonable 18 feet. And put a window, one of those windows is in here. These doors, by the way, we haven't finalized those, obviously. I'm just showing these are expensive doors by brands that bifold like this and fold back against the wall, and then you have a pull screen that comes across, and this is screened. There are other alternatives, including 9 12-foot sliders, a variety of alternatives. We have to think about, though, where the cooking equipment and etc. is going. In any event, if the person was inclined, it's 2 of these 22-inch LVLs pushed up into that wall. And see, this is the normal bottom plate of the wall that gets moved up. All these 2x4s, all these studs get cut off, about 10 inches up. We go like this, and then from out here, this was where we were at the last film. Now, where this is 10'2" here, now we pull that back to 8'0", increasing the size of our covered patio without pushing this out any further. I'm not saying that this can't come out further as well. And then your drawing showed a deck around this, and because it's so high, as soon as it gets higher than 30, you need a railing. So I wasn't sure how we were going to accommodate people not falling off here. As I said, this is 4 feet or so, even a little bit more at these corners. So I'm showing this deck, and you can ignore, I've just used cable rails and these kind of newel posts just to model this and to give you an idea. And these are pieces of treated lumber down here, hiding that whole bottom, which is all just land up underneath there. And then in this one, I'm just adjusting that second floor deck up here to go back. And on this side, for the purposes of modeling this and getting a starting point, this area here is a little bit of an issue, but there's the second floor deck. I moved that, make that quite a bit smaller, I suppose. Pulling it back where the front end of it is about flush with the front of this wall here. The problem is we can't run this deck all the way over there. It's too low. It's going, as you know, that footing is already exposed at this corner as it is. So for now, just to get somewhere, I show this as concrete there, and it slopes at 1/4 inch per foot until it's 8 inches here at this step. So step up 8 inches. And then getting up on this side, you know how that's laid, and I'm showing concrete, but these can be any sorts of transition materials. I'm showing this concrete, poured concrete. I don't know how wide you make it or how it transitions. Maybe it's curved. I could easily see it curving like this, but I wasn't going to spend too much time with that. In any event, I have this divided up into 3 short stairs up instead of 2 tall ones. So it's like this, and then that's the transition. This is the transition to, this is all at its existing height and its existing location. From this side you could see, it's hard to see from here, but because this is really, but you come up 1, 2, 3, and you get into your storage room. But this platform back here, perhaps that is screened off and that becomes an additional storage shed. Maybe it's not put together exactly like that, but perhaps that becomes an additional storage room there. So that was as far as I took that, getting that roughed in. And I know this is a lot of deck. I think it's 700 feet, and most of this is just pathway deck here. I mean, it's nice to be able to come out here and look over the land and that valley, etc. But in terms of the actual usable space, that's limited to here. And that area is about 425 square feet, about 16 foot 1 or 2 this way, and 25 foot 7 here. And I've got 3 foot 4 on these pathways between these newel posts. And I don't know about burying this deck work down below grade. It will last 30 years if you use the ground contact. And I just, maybe this is poured and then that's interfaced with that, with some adjustment to this grade. And here are a couple short turnaround films of this structure as I've been showing it. Now this last bit is just, for informational purposes. As I said, I'm not sure what condition that footing is in, but everything shown as it is shows the contractor rebuilding this, and I would think that we're going to re-specify the size and location of these doors. But I have the contractor just rebuilding that with the existing floor height where it is, building it up underneath it. I don't know how feasible it is to relocate this or rotate it so it's less incongruous with the rest of the house, but I've calculated the weight of that thing with all the wood, everything above the foundation is going to be between 7,000 and 9,500 pounds. So I don't know if it's feasible to suspend that, get all this out of here, and pour a new foundation, pour a new footing, and bring up the new foundation walls in a new location. But I did make a quick review of that, where this is where it is here, and I think this wall, because of these other two photos that I have, I think that wall and stairs are rotated around a little bit. I think the stairs are closer to that and this wall is closer to that. And because of the way that land is, we really want to keep that entrance. I'm assuming this is where the main door to this underneath part is going to be, where it is now. So we want to keep that approximately at that same location because of the terrain and having it work out level there. So I've rotated this where that pretty much stays, where this would be flat down here, or as it is now. And this was the rotation I used, and that was solely based on that. If I thought that we could get it, after some surveying, we were able to tell that we could push that out another 2 or 3 feet. If you're going to the expense of relocating it, I think that would probably be recommended. But I just show it rotated so that it still works out with the terrain as I've modeled it. And then, so now you have this. You would have these stairs at the angled one too, I'm assuming. But I'm showing these stairs, and it takes 10 of them to get down there. And that's if you still leave this bottom at 80 inches high. That's not raised at all in the new. Well, it wouldn't matter. This still would go down that far. You could raise this floor up where underneath here is as high as you want, 88, 92, whatever you want it. And then this is how, that kind of helps us on this back side, I think, maybe. But that's how, if we did that, that's how that situates there. And I have pulled those stairs back, actually. And here are the same turnaround films with that shed relocated as I just outlined. And here's what the floor plan of that looks like. And this was the shift. That red dashed line is the existing shed location, and this is the shift. Now the very last thing for this film is with regard to this, regards to where they put the steel beam, the drop wood beam, or the 22-inch recessed beam. Back on the addition part, back north of this brick wall, those will all be trusses just like this. But if you wanted to, and then out here you end up with this 9'2" ceiling if you come down 2 stairs, and the flat trusses across. If a person wanted to, though, they could run trusses back there, and then out here stick frame this. There's a couple 14-inch LVLs here. The margins are probably going to be 2 11s or 2 14s. And then these are 10-inch rafters here. And those might be able to be smaller even than 10. I didn't double check that. It took 10 to accommodate insulation inside, but that's going to be trusses anyway, so those might actually be able to be 8. In any event, that gives the bottom of the beam at 12'1", and you know, the margins are still the 9'2". So I did want to cover that in the event we wanted to stick frame that instead of truss framing it. We'd still truss frame, I assume, the part that's back over the room addition. But that's all for now. There's a few things to think of. Notice on this deck I have the support beam. I still have a column out here, but I have that support beam penetrating this wall and going inside and bearing on that interior wall. So we're going to have another column here. And that is all for now. There's a few more things to think about, either discount. And I didn't mention it, but I could if I go all the way back here. If you didn't want to have all this deck out here, I suppose you could come down 24, the max that code would allow, maybe 27 inches, and then have a terrace out here. That would be the next alternative, I suppose. But that's all for now. Thanks very much, and I will talk to you soon.